So in today's video, we're going to be touching on a subject of material and texture creation. In specific, I'm going to be touching on creating custom textures. In my career working in architecture visualization, typically I work with interior designers sometimes and architects. But when working with interior designers, they sometimes have very specific sample materials that they want represented in architectural visualizations that I will create for them. So in this tutorial, I will be going through my process for creating this custom carpet, which is the Mahara merger carpet. I was given a texture sample of it, so I got a material sample and I recreated the whole thing from scratch, from every little aspect of it. So everything you're seeing here was totally recreated in Substance Designer. So I'm going to be going through that and showing you how I started from the very basic shape that I used using a node to the final texture that was created. So here we are in Substance Designer, and in here I'm going to start laying down. I'll lay out the nodes that I'm going to be using to create all of the patterns that are going to make up the carpet that we just talked about. I think it's a rug. Actually, it's not a carpet, so we're going to be making a rug instead. Let's start by dropping a node in here. So to drop a node, you can hit the spacebar key, and then the first node I want to drop is a shape node. So I'll type in shape. And then I'll come into the properties in here, and I want to look for something round. So something round and also a little blurry on the edges as well. So if I do a bell, maybe I can use that, but that seems a little small and I have no control over that. So I'll go with a paraboloid instead. And I'll reduce the size of it, so let's go for 0.94 for size, and we can come back and reduce the size based on how things are looking. The next thing I want to do is just create a shape, an elongated shape that's going to form the loop for each bundle that's going to be woven together to form the carpet itself. So what I want to do now is just hit the spacebar again and type in waveform, and it's here. And then on the waveform, we'll go into the properties panel as well and just start to change some properties to get the result we want. So first thing I want to do is just increase the number of samples. So I'll do 1024 for the number of samples. That's the maximum sample you can get actually, so that's good. And then for the size minimum, I'll do a 0.6, and then size maximum, I'll do a 0.5. And then noise, I'll put noise at 0, and number of patterns, I'll just do 2, and actually maybe 1, because I only need one of them. So actually number of waves is what I should reduce. So just do that, and pattern, I can keep pattern at 2, that's fine, but generally this is the type of shape I'm looking for. So I'll move this apart so that things are a little separated. And then what I want to do is blend the two together. So you can do that by grabbing a blend node, and then you put the waveform in the background, and then you put the shape, the paraboloid shape that we created, in the foreground. And then you want to set the blending mode, because typically when you bring a blend node in here, it defaults at copy, but you want to put that as multiply. So you can see once we multiply it, you get that shape. And also if I double click on it, you start to see that edge form a little bit. And that's what we're looking for. But right now it feels a little too bulky. And what I'm gonna have to do is to transform it a little bit, meaning I can squish it a little bit, I can move it around. So grab this and then do a transform 2D node and bring that closer here so that, you know, things are a bit tighter and clean. And then what I'll do is just grab this and ever so slightly just kind of, you know, push it together until I start to see a shape that I like. I think that's great. And now looking at this, we can start to figure out, okay, is this looking the way we want it to or not? Then you can basically start to reduce or increase based on how rounded you want it to look. So right now it's a bit elongated, so I'll keep it at 0.9, and then I'll come back to the transform and just kind of like stretch things a little bit. Seem a little too stretched, too squished there. So I'll bring that down. And then let's move this a little closer. And then the next thing I want to do is blur the edges so it doesn't feel too sharp on the edges, because we want to be blending all of this together to look like a carpet, because you don't have, when you look at a carpet texture, you don't have sharp edges, you have things blending with each other in terms of the bundle of fabrics that are woven together. So what I'll do is just come here and type in blur, and the one you want to use is the blur HQ grayscale. That's the one I typically use, so I'll grab that, and the intensity I'll go up to say 16. That's the maximum, and then push the quality to 1. And then once I have that, I'll just grab another transform node. I'll take the transform node here and just place that right about there. And I want to reduce the size of this a little bit, so maybe I'll just go 80 here, and then 80% here as well. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. It's looking better already. I like the shape I'm getting now, so let's keep going. So the next thing we want to do is transform this and make sure that we start to rotate this a little bit. And in order for us to do that, because we're going to be creating 2 branches off of here, what I'll do right now is I'll just grab this and just use a blend node. I don't really need to blend it with anything. I just need one of this transform node connected to the blend here, so that I can connect I can draw off of the blend and just connect other things to it as well. So what I'll do here now is, since the pattern is right now it's straight, and also before we do that, actually what I want to do is make sure I cut off whatever is on the edges here. And in order for us to do that, we have a nifty tool in here called cropping area. So you can come in here and start to crop things off a little bit. So you can see that I've cropped that edge off, and then I'm gonna come to the right side and crop it off until I see nothing, no trace of any straight edges. And you can come in here and just make sure that's clean. Yeah, so right about there it's barely noticeable, So here as well, it's barely noticeable. I think we're good there. So next thing we want to do, once we've cropped off the edges, we have a clean tile that we can use. So off of this, I'm going to drag out 2 transform nodes. So I'll drag one here, and then I'll drag another one here. Actually, I think it, let's see, I'll drag another one here, just so you can see what I'm gonna do with this. So with this one, I want to rotate it so that it's slanted, and let's see, if I want to rotate it counterclockwise, so that's negative. So I'll just do a negative 60 degrees, negative 60 for this transform node. As you can see, this has been rotated. And then I'll just grab this again and rotate this at 60 as well, negative 60 I mean. So that's been rotated as well. And then what I want to do is just move this a little bit. So I'll grab it and move it. I'll just move it like so. So that I don't have the edges showing up too much. And let's just move this like that. And then I'll drag off of this. Actually, let me drag off of the bottom one and do a blend, so that that's the background and this is the foreground. And now the blending node, the blending mode, I should say, that we want to use for this one should be add. And you can see now we're starting to get something here. So off of this, I need to move things around a little more. So I'll grab this one and just start to move it down a little, so that I'm starting to create a pattern here. As you can see, things are starting to take shape, and if you're trying to guess what we're creating, it's starting to look like a carpet. I hope you can see the pattern that's emerging right now, which is kind of cool. What we're seeing here is really cool, and it's one of the advantages of using Substance Designer. I know this is a longer process of creating texture. You can create textures in other ways by grabbing it and making it tileable, but I think this gives you the ultimate flexibility of creating something really cool by just starting from a small shape here, and then we're already starting to get something really cool here. So let's keep going. So what I need to do now is I need to add another shape onto this. Since the pattern is just 2 patterns, what I want to do is create 3 patterns actually. So I'm going to stack them side by side. So what I'll do is, since I already have this shape here, let's see, if I grab off of this, I can create another one. So I'll just grab off of this one so that I can create another transform, and then move this one. So I'll blend all 3 of them together. So I'll grab another blend here. I'll say blend, and that one needs to be the foreground. So this will be on top, and then this will be bottom. Again, this will be add as well. So I want to grab this guy and then move this guy out of the way a little. So things are starting to get cut off a little bit. I may need to start to decrease the size of things a little bit. Also, what I can do is come back here, since this since this is our shape, I can still reduce the size of the shape a little more if things are not fitting. So you come back to and this is what I'm talking about when I say flexibility, right? You can come back to the original shape and start to create, start to change the shape of it a little bit and change the scale so that things fit, versus, you know, scaling here or scaling any of this, or grabbing this and putting the scale and destroying your entire texture. So I'll just grab this one and then I will scale it a little bit. So let's go 90 here and then 90 here as well. Okay, we're starting to get some artifacts here, but I think we can come into our blend as well and start to use our cropping a little bit. So if we go back here, yeah, we're starting to get a really nice shape. So let's see if we move this up like so. I'll just put it down here so that we don't get anything weird. And I'll grab that one and move that a little closer. And then grab this guy and move this guy a little closer, like so. So looks like things are starting to take shape, which is pretty good. So let's see if I move this up a bit. And then I'll grab this and just move this down like so, so that I have a really good pattern that I like. So this is starting to look good. I like the results we're getting here, although I do feel like the angle's a little too, it could be a little straighter, but not sure. Let's see. So if I grab this guy too and I rotate it this way and then transformed it up some more, I think that's looking better. And then I'll grab this too. And I'll grab the last one as well and just do that. And you can use your judgment here as well and see what looks best for you in terms of what you see. I'm ultimately going to make this look the best based on how I see everything looking. So. All right, I think that's good enough. for what I wanted to do for right now. So I'll leave it as is. It's looking good. All right. So we have something that looks like, you know, three bundles of fabric woven together, and then ultimately I want to blend this with some kind of meshy fabric so that it starts to look like what carpet looks like when you look at the surface of it. So in order for us to do that, there's a nifty node in here called fur. So I'll just come and type in fur, and if I do that, I get this node that looks like this, which is pretty cool. So a really cool node that we can use to blend with our shape here. And before we do that, because I don't want it to look a little coarse, I'm going to first tile it to make it smaller, because right now if I just use this, it could look okay, but let's see. I'll use a transform, and I'll just grab the transform and scale it a bit. Let's see. And then what I want to do is just make it slightly less coarse. So I'll use a node called histogram range, and I'll go like so. And you can come back in here and adjust it as much as you want to make things look the way you want it to look. So off of this, we're going to drag a blend node as well. You can see we're using a lot of blending to make everything look good. That's typically what I use most of the time. And now just grab this and put it in the foreground. And I'll change the blending mode to, this time around, I'll use soft light. All right, so if I zoom in here, you're starting to see the fabric come through on the edges. And don't worry about some of the shape you're seeing right now. It's most likely not going to show up in your texture anyway. Some of these artifacts you're seeing are most likely not going to show up in your texture. So let's just get things a little closer. I'll move this up here, and let's clean up our nodes a little bit so that things are not looking too crazy. So I'll drag this here. I'll get this a little closer. Move this back here, and all of this I'll get everything tighter in, so that, you know, we have something cleaner. And this should be familiar to you as well if you work in Unreal Engine as well. When you're creating materials in Unreal Engine, you have this type of node workflow. Okay, we have something here that's looking pretty good. Let's see. The next thing we want to do is start to figure out if we want to tile this, how we're going to tile it. But even before we get to that, if we look at the carpet that I was showing before, we have some kind of pattern in there that we're crisscrossing as well. So I'm going to try to create that. Again, I'm creating this because I've seen this carpet so many times, and I have it memorized as well. So a lot of the patterns in the carpet, I have a memorization of it. I don't need to look at it multiple times. So let's keep going. So off of my node here, what I'm gonna do right now is maybe let's see which one I use to create the first pattern that I need. Let's see. I'll grab this one and just create I'll create my transform node off of this. I think this one should be fine. Let's see. Yeah, this should be fine, because I can basically rotate it again and scale it as well and make sure it looks good. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do is rotate this into a shape that's a little smaller, a little bigger, I should say, than what was originally here. So I'll grab this and just scale it up to 150. Let's see, say 150 here. And then I'll rotate it. Let's look at this for a second. Okay, I'll rotate it until it's straightish, and then I'll leave it the way it is right now, and then off of that I'll grab another one. So I'll say another transform. And this one, I'm most likely gonna just scale up a little bit to make it a little bigger. So I'll just grab this and just go maybe 120 by 120. And then I'll just move this out like so. Maybe squish it a little bit. Yeah, maybe just squish it like so. And just move it up. Yeah, that seems to be looking good. So the next thing we want to do now, once we've gotten those two shapes the way we want them, is we want to use something called a tile sampler. So what I'll do is, and we want to use something that's a little grayscale as well. We don't want to use a colored sampler. So I'll hit the space bar and then type in tile sampler grayscale. So I'll just remove that, and in here we have patterns that we can input into the tile sampler. So you can see in here, if I take a look at it, it has one input, a scale map input, a displacement map input, a rotation map, and a vector map input, color map input, a masking. So you can do a lot of things with the tile sampler. It is actually a really good node. But right now what I want to do is just come in here, and since I have two patterns here, so I'm using this one and this one, so I'm going to be inputting those two patterns, but right now I only have one input. So I'm gonna come down here, I'll select this, and first thing I want to do is just make sure the pattern is set to input, pattern input. Once I do that, then it's going to ask me, okay, pattern input number, I want 2. So I'll just type in 2 here. So now I have 2 inputs I can use. So input number 1 is going to be this guy, and then input number 2 is going to be the other one. So we have the 2 transform nodes. I've already transformed this one to the shape. I have this, and if I double click on it, you can see what it looks like. And then if we come back here, we're starting to get something like this, which is kind of nice. So what I'll do is, this is looking a bit odd here. So let's see if I just increase the number to 256 by, say, maybe 190. Let's see what we're getting. Yeah, things are getting a little odd. So I'll come back here and look at this guy and just grab it a little bit, and maybe just do that. If we go back here, looks like we're getting something good here. Okay. All right, there's more. We have more parameters that we can play with in here in the tile sampler, and some of the parameters we've already changed the pattern input to 2. So the next thing we want to try to do is just go to the size input and see what we can do there. Yeah. So what I'll do is in the size input right now it's set to a scale of 0.8. Let's see if we increase it. It's looking a little blobby than I would like. So I'll come back here to this guy and see. Maybe I'll just reduce it a bit, because that is a bit too big for what I wanted to do. Let's see. Let's go back here. And I'll change the size again and see how that affects things a bit. And then if you're trying to figure out, okay, which is which, you can disconnect one of them and just see how things are showing up. So you can see if I plug this back in, you get that. So that fills up the gap a little bit. And then if we keep going, what I want to do now is, since this is the way it is right now, I still have to rotate it because the angle right now is a little straight. I want to make sure I rotate it, because what I don't want to do is grab this rotation here and use that rotation. I want to rotate it a different way so that it's going in the opposite direction. That's why I originally grabbed this and I rotated it this way, so I can rotate it in the direction that I want, and then I'll scale it a bit more once I rotate it. So in order for us to do that, I can come down to the rotation in here. So I'll just close the size for right now, and then I'll go into rotation, and hopefully, let me see, what angle am I gonna use? Let's see, maybe since it's the opposite, I'll use 45. Okay, 45 is looking good. All right, and then let's see, if I scale it now, if I go back to scaling, I'll just scale it up a little bit in the size. So if we go to size, yeah, now that's looking a lot better. I'll just do 1.54. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. Yeah, that's looking like what I want it to look like. Now the other thing we can do is introduce some kind of randomness into this, and you can do that by calling into the color variation. once you get into the color variation, you can make some changes to the color input as well to get some sort of randomization in there. And so you do color random, and then typically maybe we'll go to 0.4 or something, and we can see in here, you can start to see the randomization of the colors, and that's just to give it some sort of variation as well. You can see what this is looking like now. So it's starting to, because you don't want a carpet that's monotone. When you create your carpet, you don't want it to be all the same, but you want some level of noisiness to it in terms of the way the texture will come out. And you can play with this as well. What I'll say is just play with it and look at what looks good to you. You can go all the way down, you can bring it all the way up. I kind of like where I was, 0.42 or something like that. And that gives me the pattern I want, and I like what I'm getting here. So that's how to use the tile sampler. You can dive deeper if you want. There's a whole lot you can do in here. You can do a random mask as well and things like that, but I think this is okay for my needs at the moment. So I think we can move on to what's next. What we're going to be doing next is creating the tile sampler for the other input as well, which is the one at the very top that we created before, those three patterns up here. So what we want to do is just make sure we create a tile sampler for that. So I'll just grab this and just type in tile sampler grayscale. So I'll just grab that. What I could also do is instead of having to reset all of my parameters in here, I could technically use this one, copy this one, and just adjust it a little bit. So let's try that. So I'll just do Control D for this, and I'll just remove those and change the number of pattern input to 1, and I'll grab that and put that in. And yowzas, this is not looking the way I want it to look, but I think we can increase the number of sides as well too. So let's grab this and come down to size. And we can do that. And see what we're getting. So it's the shape is looking interesting, and you can see you're starting to get this woven look. That's really cool. And also you have the pattern as well. And the noise, I'm going to come down to the randomness of the color down here, or color input. Where did we? Okay, so yes, so down here I'm just going to reduce this a bit so that we have less colorization in here as well. And once we have that, that should give us what we need for this. So I'll just go in here again. It's looking like there's a bit of gap in here, and I want to close that gap a little. I'd like to close that gap so that it doesn't okay, let's see. Yeah, if I move this up a little, the gap should close. If I change the size, I mean, so if I come down here to size in terms of scale, if I close that up a little, and then I get something like this. So, which is woven together. But as you can see, this is starting to look really cool. If you look at the pattern getting here, I mean, imagine if you wanted to create this texture, you don't have the, if you created this texture from an image, then you're stuck with whatever image you have. You don't have the ability to come back in here and adjust one node to kind of change the shape of this. But this is the power that Substance Designer has. It gives you the ability to create your own texture by putting nodes together, and I can't say this enough. It's so helpful, especially when you're doing visualization work, and if you want to do high-end visualization work. I know sometimes it's easy to just grab a texture and just, you know, put it into a software that's going to, you know, just tile it for you, but then you're just stuck with one texture that's tiled. You have no ability of changing that whatsoever. I'm gonna delete this because we don't need that. So I'll move this up a little and then move this down. Okay, looks like we have something good here. So off of this, I'll just put a transform node here on this one. Transform 2D, and then I'll grab a transform 2D as well. So I'm going to line this two up, and you'll see why I have this two all set up this way, because I'm going to be blending those two together. Not using a blend node per se, but it's going to be two textures, because the middle of the carpet is separated in the middle by, maybe it's a good time for me to find that image, so that let's see, where do I have that image saved? I think it'll be somewhere. Aha, so you can see that in the middle here, I have this blend in here of a texture rotating in the opposite direction. And so what I want to do is have one pattern here, and a different pattern in the middle that I can kind of separate. And that's why I'm breaking the pattern apart. I have this guy broken into one, and then I have this broken into another. So there's this, and then there's this. So hopefully that makes sense to you, so that you can see what I'm trying to achieve here. All right, so off of this, I'll grab a transform node, and then I'll just place that there. And then what I'll do is off of the two, I'm just gonna grab a blend node to blend the two together, so that I have something really cool that is starting to show up like a really interesting carpet pattern. So let's see. So I'll grab this and say blend. Then I'll put this in here, and I'm going to experiment a bit with this one. So let's see, if I change the blending mode to that, do I get anything interesting? No. If I do multiply, no, that's no good. If I do add, no. No. So max lighten seems to be the winner here. I kind of like, it's kind of hard to see what's happening. So if I click on this one, so you can see this. And then this one as well. Oh, by the way, we forgot to do one thing, which I think is critical. I think we should grab this, all of this, and just copy and then paste that here, and then do a blend with this. So, although the rotation also, I forgot to do this. The rotation of this guy should not be that. It should rotate to blend with that shape, so that when we get here, yeah, I definitely forgot to do that. Apologies. So I'll come here as well and just in here I'll rotate this so that it's starting to blend with this a little bit, and I'll just come back here and just rotate it some more so that we're getting this. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, I will grab all of this and then copy it as well. I'll remove that and then plug this in. So I'll plug this here and I'll plug this here. And then I can go back to my histogram to kind of reduce how that's looking, actually, to kind of get a little bit of more coarseness here. Let's see. And we can use the same value, so I'll use a 0.8. And then I'll come here and just do the same. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here and see. Yeah, we're starting to get something there. Also, if I reduce the size of this in terms of the scale, if I go like so, what happens when I come to the blend mode? What I'll do is I'll change out everything's lined up, because what I'm trying to achieve here, let's see if I get what I want. Okay. I think that's the most I'm going to get out of this, so I'm going to move on. What I was trying to do is get some straight patterns in between to kind of break it up a little bit, but this seems to work really well for my needs actually, so I will keep it this way. Let's keep going. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is, I remember when I pulled this up a little, we have this vertical in the middle. So I'm going to be creating that shape for the separation, and then I'll use that as the divide for the two sides. So I'll put this away, and yeah, so the next time I come back to this, I'm going to take a break for now. When I come back, I will continue creating the rest of this texture. So I'll see you guys in a little bit.